This is So Long Too Long, a true-to-life recounting of a band that, despite their very best efforts, seemed destined to break into the big time if they could only overcome one hurdle, themselves. If they weren't quite four lads who shook the world, they certainly gave their postcodes a tremble. In our last episode, we detailed how we, the Albany, found ourselves with a band name, and so buoyed on by this, and with one whole tune under our belts, we decided to think further afield and consider the really important stuff, how we'd look. Now, being in a band at this age, but especially being in Liverpool, meant it was important to make it look as if you didn't give a toss about your image, whilst actually very much giving a toss. I therefore leant deeper into the art of making it look as if I got dressed in the dark, wearing such wonderful combinations as oversized hand-me-down cardigans over Umbro polo tops, ill-fitting baggy jeans, and any shoes I could find. I had near shoulder-length curly hair that very much resembled the Harry Enfield calm-down Scouse characters, and without the presence of a girlfriend to advise and style me, I gave off the air of someone who had drunkenly fallen over in a charity shop. But I was too busy writing the noughties answer to Blonde on Blonde to concern myself with such trivialities as fashion, don't you know? I was also at this point heavily in the middle of a Bob Marley fascination that would last for years. Although I would never go as far as to get dreadlocks and ask to be called Jar Bless Matty, I was utterly enthralled by Rastafarian imagery, and I adorned red, gold and green bracelets and neck chains, completely unaware of any risk of cultural appropriation or just sheer embarrassment. Rowie was much more astute. Very aware of the fashions of the time, gleaned from the glossy pages of the NME, Rowie alternated between sharp suits with neckerchiefs to jeans and Adidas jackets, both topped off with a ubiquitous trilby hat. Whereas Steve was genuinely quite a good dresser, and aside from the rite of passage of having a bad haircut, always looked as if he should be in a band. He did have one curious clothing habit, in that Steve always wore two pairs of socks, one being thick green footballing socks, and he never offered any explanation for this. So the socks, Steve, talk us through the socks. As long as I've known you, which is a long time now, you've always wore two pairs of socks. I mean, I don't know whether you're doing this in Abu Dhabi in the desert now, but it was always two pairs of socks and always footballing socks.
Yeah, I still wear two pairs of socks even when it's like 45 degrees. And anytime we'd ask you though, you'd just kind of just shake your head or laugh it off, and we never knew why. Well, I just always assumed everyone did it. And then, like, you know, with the green footy socks, I think I was just smoking a lot of green and I just like the colour maybe, I don't know. But yeah, I do remember going through a phase of just wearing football socks and then a pair of normal black socks over them. And it must have looked like properly nuts. And
Did you have the footy socks pulled up though?
Yeah, right up. Like, I'm surprised I didn't have shin pads on.
So, because, you know, we're talking this episode about the image of the early days of the Albany. Was it a stylistic decision here, Steve?
I don't think it was. I had some proper style decisions before the socks, obviously. But I used to do it all the time. I don't know. And my feet used to hurt. Like, and I still don't. Like, I used to do it like where, like, I was playing football. I'd have two pairs of socks on, and like my feet would be like squashed in. And I'd be like,
Did you never size up the shoes though?
Yeah, like I knew what size shoe I was, and it still like was like, I think I ruined a couple of pairs of like trainees and that just by having stupid socks on. But even if I was like hiking or something, like, you know, when we like went to Wales, you know, not that we hiked much, but I remember I had like boots on and I had the proper woolly winter socks on. I had two pairs of them on as well.
Steve, two socks, mate. Bloody hell. Yeah. So that was very much the style at the time. So talk us through your stylistic decisions then, Steve, because as I said, you always look like you should be in a band around that age. I certainly didn't, but I remember you did. What were you going for?
Do you know what? I don't really know. I know I used to have like quite like straight jeans on, and then I went through a phase of wearing green Dunlop trainers for a bit.
The green flash.
Yeah, the green flash. And I used to think I looked pretty good in them. I did have a pair of Converse at some point, but like really battered, like on purpose battered, with like
Of course,
with
yeah,
tape wrapping
yeah.
them up and everything. And then I had a strange one where I was wearing this. Remember it? A green kind of like suit jacket with like a
Yes,
mad shirt and
yes.
like a scarf, but like
The scarf. I always remember the
yeah,
scarf. Yeah. Oh, a thin. Always a thin scarf. I remember you
yeah.
having.
And I think for some reason it worked. Well, probably didn't looking back, but I used to think it did. And then I just had the worst haircut though. I never like I just had really long, straight, thin black hair, like just
Yeah. I mean, I'm not one to talk. I am not. I mean, I had shoulder length curly hair, and not even in like a fashionable way. You know, like you'd see members of like the Zootons or the Stands. I was just a mess. I was just an absolute
yeah.
mess.
To be fair, Matty, you did look a bit mad. Like
A bit, man.
Because I've never been asked by like fashion or wearing clobber, but I think by the time I was in a band, I was like, right, I'm gonna lean into that more. I'm gonna give less of a toss. Do you know what I mean? So I'm gonna throw any old shite on, absolutely any, an old discarded cardigan. Yeah, I'll wear that. Yeah, I'll wear practically flares with like suit shoes. You know, I really, really lent into that. I'm too busy being a genius to be asked by fashion. I really, really kind of lent into that, and I think I succeeded, but I looked like an absolute meth.
yeah, well, yeah. It was a bit like Kurt Cobain's Green Cardi unplugged. I know I never saw him a Cardi before, but you just kept the look and just that was just 24 hours, 7 days a week in a Cardi, like a brown
Absolutely.
Cardi, though. Remember? Like,
Yeah. That's the one. Yeah, I can't remember whose it had been, but it'd been mine. But just an absolute refusal to get me a haircut, and it was just. I mean, one of them. You think, God, I've wasted like my young virile years looking like that. But and just to top it off, which I'm sure we'll talk about this many times over the episodes, just utterly obsessed with Rastafarianism.
That's brilliant, though.
Joe, we looked like we were in three different bands. That's what.
That's do you know what that's it.
Yeah.
We never had like a conscious sit down, right, lads, what are we going for? But we all kind of knew. We all had an individual image we were going for, whether it was pretending to not have an image. But it must have looked absolutely mental. So there's you in like your sharp, looking good. There's me with like absolutely anything but this bizarre red, gold, and green Rastafarian thing. And then to top it off, there's like, Ro, you genuinely look good, like.
No, like, it's just very confusing, like at that age, innit? Because
Yeah.
you're coming into like adulthood and you just want to look the part, or basically not wanting to be ID'd going into a bar. Like, this looks like an adult. He can buy a drink, this lad. But mine was all over the place because I was wearing like blazers like from charity shops because that's what the bands were wearing, like just wearing this thing. But my top half never married up with the bottom half. So I'd have like these charity second-hand blazers that have just been about 50 years old probably at the
About three
time.
people had
Then I'd
died
have a
of
pair
them.
of about 3 people. And then like I'd have like a pair of bootcut jeans on, again with like the green flash or Converse. So I must have just looked like Mr. Ben got confused when he was going in, like what do I want to be? But like you said there about like the Trilby hat, I do want to go on the record that I only wore that once.
Really?
And yeah, I wore it for a gig once.
Ah, right.
But I never used to bounce around for Trilby hat because
Got it in my head.
I'd fucking
Right.
like, imagine leaving your house in the Swan, walking down to the bus stop with a fucking Trilby hat on. I had it probably stuffed in my pocket for like when we got into town.
Right,
But
got you.
I definitely didn't leave the house with that on. And everyone had to go over it because it's like, look at this fucking fool with a Trilby hat. But like I say, it's just the bands at the time, isn't it?
Well, yeah. So who were you going for? If you know what I mean.
So like the bands that like were in like the magazines, like the cool ones, they would have been like the Libertines or the Strokes or Kings of Leon, like with the haircuts. Because like the both of yous, I had like just shoulder and hair, but not styled or cut in any way. It's just, well, bands have long hair.
Yeah.
If you play guitar, you got to have long hair. And how'd you get long hair? Just don't get a cut.
Yeah.
Just don't get a cut. And then you just end up with this lank mess. because it's not styled by anyone.
And I mean, bands at the time had hair, but very much other people didn't. Which, you know, now everyone's got cat wigs or long hair, but we must have looked like a just a gang of
Scruffs.
Yeah.
Scruffs.
For want of a better word, and the scally residents of Old Swan and Stoneycroft would tell us that.
Yeah.
They'd let us
time.
know, you fucking scruffy cat. Yeah. But I'm in a band. You know?
I used to get called like a goth all the time walking down Derby Lane, and I'd be like, "What goth wears green fuzzy socks?" Like, imagine that. Imagine seeing that at the courts.
But that's it, innit? Because it's at the time, especially like in Liverpool at the time. Like, if you were in a band or into music, you were either into like indie music, whatever that is, or like emo music, whatever that is. But like, there was just two definite camps you were either part of, and like, it's not like we didn't look like Doherty or Barat or Casablancas, whatever. Like, we were just four scruffs, but our needle was on that side rather than the Kerrang side.
Yeah. But as much as we would, well, I certainly was trying not to give an image of anything. The image I did really want to give off was I'm in a band. Do you know what I mean?
That's it. Innit?
It was all about that, walking with a swagger of being in a band. That was what we wanted to give off.
Yeah.
Just looked like maths.
See, I remember seeing, but like, remember when the Kooks started playing, and they had, I remember seeing them with trilbies on, and then I remember seeing a band in Liverpool and they all had trilbies on, and I'd worn a trilby in the past, but then as soon as the Kooks did it, and I saw this band in the Barfly, I was so aggressively hating every single one of them, like every single one of them was a gobshite, and I wanted to make sure that I told them the band was shite. And to be fair, they were just like us, and we're a bit more organised. Like, should we actually look like we're in a band together?
Yeah, at least all four of them were singing from the same image.
Yeah.
No. Was it man had always changed. So I'd have like suits on, because I used to go to like when the leather shop was on Lime Street. I used to go in with founder member of the Jimmy Savile Experience, Paul Barrow, because you'd go into this the leather shop or whatever it was called at the time, and there'd be rails of full 2-piece and 3-piece suits, but they were like a tenner, like for the suit. And you just had to like rifle through everyone and just try and get, hopefully, that the pants and the jacket like are all right size for you. But then you'd be wearing the suit, trying to like look adult, look in a band. But then the next time you'd just have like a tracky top on. With your trainees, because it's like, oh, I'm trying to be like this indie kid now, or just want to wear more comfortable clothes and ones that are new and clean rather than like an our fella's died in it a week before. But you're just all over the place trying to figure yourself out. But like you were saying there, you knew by being in a band and being in like the Albany, we were trying to go for something, but I think we just missed on so many levels.
Yeah, we should have tried to like organise ourselves where we look the same. Like, even if we went to the real leather shop and all bought like leather kecks and like a pair of Crocs.
But
little kinky stuff, you know what I mean?
But honestly, I think if any of us would have suggested that, we never would have allowed.
It was unspoken. Like,
none of us were allowed to use the word image. Image was a dirty word. It wasn't rootsy enough. We don't have an image, mate. Our music does the talking. So as a result, we had Rowie, the changing man. We had Stay with 2 pairs of green football socks, and we had me, white Rastafarian.
That's mad. Like thinking back, like the Rasta stuff. Like, you went in deep.
Yeah, you
jumped in the deep end, didn't you?
I remember walking to the pub with you, Matty, once, and it was absolutely smashed. And you're like, I'm really getting into this Rastafarian stuff, you know, and like the music and everything. I said, you know, like, I'd even think about like find out more about it. And I said, you can't bevy, you know, if you're Rastafarian. And then that just kind of was like, oh, fucking hell, fuck that then.
I won't fully convert.
Just stop before.
I'll represent.
Yeah.
But we knew image extended beyond Clubber. We had to make a statement, lad. We had to show these pricks what we were all about, show them who the Albany are. Now, it's worth noting that this was 2005, when the social media website MySpace was at its zenith. If you didn't have a MySpace profile, you didn't matter. And if your band didn't have one, then you simply didn't exist. So that was the next task, and we duly got to work. I'd managed to record an acoustic demo of Lightning Struck Twice, and that felt enough in terms of audio content. In the burgeoning days of social media, the actual music was secondary to the image you were trying to get across. So we assigned the task of organising visuals to Steve, who was studying A-level art. Steve approached this task with the appropriate level of thought and planning, using Microsoft Paint to spray paint the Albany across a picture of the American TV detective Columbo, a job that could not have taken more than 30 seconds. It was perfect, and we now had a logo and a profile picture to share with the world. Despite the slapdash nature of this, our defaced Columbo profile picture would, throughout the subsequent years, become one of our most celebrated and recognisable pieces of work. It was hilarious, baffling and absurd in equal measures. Was it ironic? Was it tongue-in-cheek? Was it a social commentary? Probably not. Truthfully, we didn't know, as we never gave it any thought. It just made us laugh. There were no other mentions to Columbo in our repertoire, and we never provided any reason as to why we chose to use Peter Falk as the face of our brand. And I can only imagine any number of bands at that time who had meticulously cultivated a crafted image or paid someone else for their design skills, despairing at the success of such a throwaway offering. And I do sympathise with them, but this was how we operated. So it sounds weird now, because it's just taken for granted that you have an online presence. In fact, an online presence is probably more important than gigs nowadays. And, without meaning to sound like an ancient, things were better back then. This was exciting, wasn't it? This was new, this whole new world of being able to get our band across to loads of people instantly online.
Yeah, and search for girls.
Well, there was that, wasn't there?
What's your profile name?
But we dived both feet into MySpace, didn't we?
Oh, God, yeah.
All of us,
But it's with the MySpace, it's not like it came along after the band had formed. It was like a perfect alignment, weren't it?
It was,
so
yeah.
When we all started in the band, we all probably had our own profile and all that. But obviously, the whole MySpace music side of it was new for everyone.
Yeah.
So it was just fair game, and it was obvious if you're in a band. Well, we need to set up our own page, don't we? Because
the next thing you do.
That's how we're going to announce all these gigs that we've got lined.
That's what the Arctic Monkeys do. That's how they got big. So that was the most important thing. So the first thing we had to do was get a... We didn't have a logo. And again, that was too much effort. Or we certainly weren't going to pay anyone to do a logo. So, Steve, can you remember where Columbo came from?
To be honest, I think I should have charged you for it. Because it was pretty successful.
Put this up on... It was. We'll lash this up on our socials or whatever. But it can't have taken 30 seconds. But
do you know what?
You spray painted the Albany over a picture of Columbo and bang.
I think I'd
the
promised,
spray paint can.
Yeah, well, I think I promised the world because I was like, I'm doing A-level art, lads. I'll do it. I'll spend a few hours on it. I'll get it all done. I'll, properly. And I probably had all these grand ideas in my head. But really, I don't know why it was Columbo, because I was into Diagnosis Murder, not Columbo at the time. So
what about Monk?
Monk, you were a Monk.
I like
fan,
Monk.
I
Yeah, I did. I dig Monk as well. I have no idea.
You're a bit like you with your socks.
Actually, bizarrely, TV detectives they took up a lot of our time, didn't they? In those days,
usually before, because you'll have crappy job, one of your first jobs, and you'd have so much time before you need to start your shift or start your job. Yeah. So what's on the telly in the daytime before you go and get your dole, or before you go on a thing, while you're waiting, or even in between lectures or lessons, whatever.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's TV detectives all day, all day. Hallmark channel.
BBC had the best TV detectives, because you used to have Neighbours, Little Afternoon, classic. Then you had Diagnosis Murder, which was great. And then I think you had Monk as well, just after it. And then that was just before CBBC started. And you're already you were into the late afternoon.
Hardcore stuff. Bedtime before,
Yeah. But ironically, Columbo was never on.
No.
Columbo was it's a Sunday afternoon thing. But at the moment you sent it, it was just perfect. We just knew it was just... Well, that's us now. We're the Columbo band. And it stuck. I know I'm jumping ahead. But like, I remember years later, I was doing a radio interview, and someone was like, "So you guys are all massive Columbo fans? We've done a Columbo quiz," and we're like, "Nah, I couldn't tell you the thing about Diagnosis Murder." But like, it's not as if we banged on about Columbo or we made reference. It was literally that was it.
Oh, it was perfect. It was perfect, and like to use the spray can on MS Paint without ballsing it up. Steve, hats off. If that took like 30 seconds a minute, and you were that neat with the spray can on paint.
Do you know what? I think that was the only bit where I sat there, not thinking about the Columbo. The Columbo elements made sense in my head at that time. I don't remember ever thinking, no, it should be Dick Van Dyke or the guy from Monk. I was just like, Columbo, and then it was the thickness of the spray. That's what I considered.
But it was met with like no resistance, was it?
Oh,
it was
yeah,
just like,
yeah.
That's it.
That's dead funny. That, and that was it. That was our brand. What else was on our? Can you? Unfortunately, MySpace is gone, and we've lost the original Albany MySpace. But I remember we had fake quotes from celebrities, didn't we? As if they were endorsing us.
Yeah, so like when you get like a new album come out, you always have like the quote, "Oh, the best thing I've ever heard," or like when you see on a book cover, "Oh, this was hilarious," whatever. So we thought, well, we got a sound apart, like we're in the circle and we're on the scene. So I remember that we had a number of quotes. I remember we had some of our own quotes. I had one about skipping. You just can't skip in this day and age. I remember that was on it.
Yeah.
And George Best, the quote of his that he lent us when we got in touch with him, he just said, "These lads can drink." and if that ain't a glowing like a review, I don't know what is, to be honest.
But in all, like, it caught fire, didn't it? Because in those days it was like, this is incredible. We can reach a number of people, or as Steve said, try and at least get some girls interested in us. But everything kind of felt suddenly in reach, didn't it? If you know what I mean? Because all of a sudden on MySpace we could send our Columbo picture to a DJ, or we could send it to, like, remember Zane Lowe? Do you remember
Zane Lowe? Yeah. So when we had that MySpace, you've got like that URL that you can give out. And I remember there was a gig on in the Barfly, I hope it's the States.
Yes, yeah.
And the Gonzo on tour, and Zane Lowe, like indie lord himself.
MTV2, wasn't it?
MTV2, yeah. Gonzo on tour,
yeah.
And they went on like a national tour, and there he is, like king of indie, Lord Indie, Zane Lowe, and me and you ride over into him,
yeah,
saying, "Yeah, Zane, get on us. We've got a MySpace. What more do you want?" There's an acoustic recording on it, but believe you me, we're ready. We are ready. Just show it to your people.
Yeah.
We'll all be good there. But yeah, Zane Lowe, meeting Zane Lowe, the man himself.
And there does exist a recording of that meeting on YouTube, doesn't it?
Yeah, it did air. It did air in the UK. And I remember, like, when I was in college the next day, after it aired, I didn't know it was on telly. And someone was like, "Oh, seeing you on a Gonzo last night." I was like, "What?" "Oh yeah, you were getting interviewed. I was like, "Behave, lad." And it was only a few months ago I thought, you know what, I'll try and dig this out because it can't be lost, surely. And lo and behold, yeah, it was there, and I sent it over to yourself, Matty, and it's a little time. You can probably, if we've got the audio, we might be able to add the video, be able to see what we're wearing.
I think I'd had an altercation, and I can't remember why, I had to get all my hair shaved off, so I've actually got no hair in it, and it's kind of one of the few shots where I've got no hair. But yeah, that was, again, it's mad to think now, isn't it, that we were like, he's in reach because of this MySpace now.
Yeah,
you know, we can get him interested in us. We don't have to go down to London and busk outside any offices anymore. Like, you know, other bands have to. We can get in touch with everyone, and we use that to spread pictures of Columbo and fake George Best quotes. Isn't that just brilliant?
I tell you what though, how come you two were there, right? I wasn't, and I'm in the band, but Bob was there in the shorts meeting him.
Well, he's one of our representatives, isn't he? So if Zane Lowe said, give some details who we can speak to, I'm sure Bob would have stepped in and took on that role as like manager / roadie / side man, whatever.
Yeah, I think so.
You can Bob, man of few words, can speak for us all. I said, what did happen on MySpace? We never even had like a shot of the three of us.
No.
We didn't want to do all the moody black and white stuff as a band.
Didn't we have a picture holding up the football banner that would nick?
No, but that would have been like further down the line, wouldn't it? So even like setting up a band MySpace, there's not even a picture of any of us on the profile. It was just TV's Columbo. But that, like, so what are we trying to get across? Because there's an acoustic demo on it of one person playing a guitar.
Yeah.
You got a band MySpace page, the Albany, and the photo representing the Albany is Columbo. Like, and it makes no sense now. Like, there was no other pictures. There weren't any pictures of us practicing or
no.
Well, we didn't even have a rehearsal room. There was no pictures of us sitting on the edge of your bed. Like, there's nothing.
Well, actually,
but not even like a picture.
Point.
Not even a picture of like the pub.
No. It was just, which actually, and again, I know I'm sounding like a dinosaur, but like you didn't have a smartphone, so you couldn't just take a picture and upload it. Everything had to be like a digital camera. Get it home, put it on your computer, and upload. And we didn't have any of that, so we knew we had to kind of get out there. So I think we just tried to be as daft as possible with like Columbo. But you're right, there was no pictures of us. Like,
but like you said there, like you couldn't. If someone was trying to make up like a marketing campaign, it's brilliant. It's brilliant because there's loads of interest. Like, what are these about?
Yeah.
But we're trying to like sell this product, whatever. But there's no substance to anything that's being done. Like, people do like these guerrilla campaigns now, don't they?
Yeah.
With stuff like this.
Yeah. Actually, I remember there's a local band called the Mysterines, and years ago when they first came out, everything was covered in mystery, and everything was like a question mark, and the if you couldn't go and watch them warm up or anything, so like the venues would be closed until they were going on, and everything was like this air of intrigue and who are these people? And it was a very successful but very like specific targeted marketing. We kind of did that without even meaning to, because it caught fire. Like, people were like, who are the Albany? What's the connection with Columbo? It makes no sense. Why is there a picture of a fisherman on their mic? It makes no sense.
That's a fisherman as well. It makes no sense whatsoever. So we were like brand the Albany, because when we'd go out in town, it wouldn't just be one of us going out. It would be the band. The band's going out. We're all mates. It's the band going out. So that would be your conversation with new people that you were meeting.
Yeah.
And then they'd look, and like whenever you'd meet up with them the week later, they go, "Oh, check that page out." Like, what's all that about? It makes no sense whatsoever.
I'd love to take credit for that and say that's what we were doing all along, but it just made us laugh, and we just didn't give a toss.
No, it's crazy, innit? Because even like the other bands at the time, like the Maybes, that was brilliant, and like they had the balls to go out and like spray paint stuff, but we didn't, because we're shit scared.
We spray painted on clip art.
I fought the law. But it's like it is just mad, because like with them, there would have been a conscious decision to do that, and it's brilliant because it was boss when you're seeing it. They're in a band and you'd catch a glimpse of them if they were in like the same bar as you, whatever. But like Columbo, like imagine like bouncing around for Columbo stencil, like trying to be Banksy. The police would just be like, "What are you? What are you doing? What are you doing?"
It's a band called Get in the Van.
Taking your own, never mind the station.
By this point, with an online presence and the rumblings of a few songs nearing completion, we began to completely immerse ourselves in band life. Every waking moment was taken up by discussions of set lists, gigs we wanted to play, and critiques of the general state of the scene, as if we were veterans who'd seen it all, as opposed to three dickheads who would spend most evenings updating MySpace profiles or chatting on MSN Messenger. We walked with the swagger of a gang, and very much inhabited the roles of rock and rollers to a cartoonish extent. The extension of this was that we became almost Ramone-like in our single-mindedness, baptising ourselves with alter egos with the aim of casting aside our former selves and denouncing our pre-Albany lives. Rowie became Magnum Pearl, and I was Calypso Reed. Bob remained Bob. But beyond one attempt at launching these, our rebrands fell by the wayside, and we simply became Matty Albany and Rowie Albany. Steve's rebirth, however, caught fire instantly, And overnight, the legend that was Frank Button eclipsed any meagre headway we had been making in reinventing ourselves. Quite where the name Frank Button came from is now but a dusty memory sitting out of reach, but it walked such a fine line between sounding believable yet inherently daft that it created intrigue and wonder amongst the increasingly wider circles that we were moving in. Is Frank Button really called Frank Button? Became something we were frequently asked, and with straight faces we would wholeheartedly reply, of course, who'd make up a name like that? Frank Button became a receptacle for the more outlandish aspects of Steve's psyche, and he took to filling it with relish, and I'd wager that somewhere in Liverpool there are still pub toilet doors with his name scribbled on it, underneath a horrifically detailed drawing of an ejaculating cock and balls, whilst across the domain of MySpace there was a group of increasingly expectant fans who were eagerly awaiting the next online outburst or musical recommendation from our Frank. So enter stage Frank Button. I think this is everything changed, didn't it? There was pre-Frank Steve and post-Frank.
Do you still speak to him, Steve?
Only on dark days. Do you know what? Like, I've started this new job right now. Because we've been doing this, and I've been like trying to like have a think back to those hazy days, and
Yeah.
like I should be learning things in work, like getting told what I'm actually meant to be doing. I keep sitting there trying to work out where I got the name from, and a couple of things like appeared in my head, and it was Frank. Where did I get that from? So it was either because Cody's dad was called Frank, and I thought
He used to drink in
he
the
used to drink in the Albany, so I thought maybe I got it from that. But then I was thinking, actually, it was the drug dog. Remember Talk to Frank?
Oh, talk to him.
So I know.
Why didn't you, Steve?
I remember you coming up with it, like, again, like all stories, we were in the Albany and we were like, come on, we need all these names. I remember you just going like, Frank Button, and bang, instantly, that just made us howl. And but that's it. That you are Frank Button now.
It sounds like one of them daytime TV detectives, I think. Frank Button, DCI Frank Button.
Well, I did have a spell there where I was sitting in the afternoon, like, watching all these things. So maybe it did, but then I was thinking the button part, where did that come from?
Where that came from?
Only thinking today, actually. Our Dave, my brother, had a hamster called Buttons. So maybe I got talked to Frank, and the thing with Buttons is he froze to death because we left him outside once, and that was it. So I've got a feeling he's named after a drug dog and a dead hamster.
Well, Dave, what a legacy.
Is that how you get like your porno name or something?
Yeah, God, your mate's dad's name and your dead pet. Because me and Rowie, I think Frank Button came first, I think. And then we were like, right, we all need alter egos now. That's it, we're in there. And mine and Rowie, I mean, Magnum Pearl, which again sounds like a TV detective.
It does actually. I think Magnum Pearl, like, and with Calypso Reed. So ours are like, our first names are ice creams, aren't they?
Magnum Pearl. Yeah.
So
yeah,
was it Calypso or Calippo?
Calippo. But,
Either way.
Calippo.
But like, I think Pearl was just like the drums. So like, whatever was in your room, like the Pearl kit. So I was Magnum Pearl.
That does sound like.
But I never introduced myself or changed like my profile page. I don't think.
Oh, we would have changed our profile. We would have tried it on MySpace and Calippo
floated it out there.
Yeah, and mine and yours. Of course, it's gonna fail because it's clear. Nah, you're just being a dickhead. But whereas Frank Button, you just go, I can't be. Is that his name, Frank Button? And it walks that line. It's so perfectly, and it was instantly. That was it. We met again because like we were moving in wider circles, and a big part of that was MySpace and getting out into town. And I reckon there are still people who don't know you're not called Frank Button.
I think it was mates in uni, like when you were in uni, and I used to turn up at house parties all the time at yours, and I'd be like, I'm Frank Button, and I used to carry autographed pictures of myself.
Oh God!
And hand them round.
You did.
But they were just like floppy A4. It wasn't like it was card or anything.
It wasn't laminated or you'd printed it in sixth form or whatever.
It was the same Iterium I did me the Albany drawing with the spray paint.
Frank Button, pleased to meet you. Pulling out a picture of yourself signed, Frank Button. Oh, man. Frank Button, man, it caught fire instantly.
It's like you say, when you're moving in them wider circles, you'd say, like, oh, what's your MySpace? I'll add you.
Yeah.
So you just give your name. But it's because it's so believable.
Yeah.
Frank Button. I'm sure, like, my now wife, like, got introduced to you as Frank Button. And like you were saying there, there must be people out there still who've, like, disappeared. Like, Frank Button. They'll know who Frank Button is.
Yeah. Yeah. And you just inherited the alter ego just perfectly. Like, as I said earlier, Magnum Pearl, Calypso Reed, whatever. To inhabit that name, we would have had to be, act up to that name, or we would have had to done something. But Frank Button, it's that kind of working class, but daft. It could be a detective, it could be a crap 70s stand-up comic. It's just, it's such a fluid name, but it's so funny. And even now, nearly like 20 years on, I still can't put my finger on why it's so funny, which I think is why it works.
Yeah, I don't know. It just sounded right, didn't it? Like Frank Button. He's called Frank Button. Like,
it was like
even on Google, you type it in, it gets no results.
Wonder why.
But yeah, the confidence, yeah.
The confidence, like, you never, like, shirked from it.
Yeah.
It was always like, I'm Frank Button, and how dare you even, like, question it? Because, like, with me, like, especially, like, when you're meeting people and, like, when we started doing gigs, it was like, when you like go into the venue to, like, see the Sarman, or, like you say, like, when you're meeting new people, or what's your name, Rowie? And then just go, all right, Robbie.
Yeah.
And you go, no, it's Rowie. Yeah, all right, mate, all right. And just forget about it. But, like, with Frank Button, it's there, it's stuck. You're never forgetting that name.
Yeah.
And how did you feel, like, when you had to, like, introduce yourself as that? Because it comes across so confident from the outside.
You talk to it with relish.
Well, it's the only name in Liverpool that never got shortened because I wouldn't let it. So it wasn't even like, there's Frank. It'd be like, it's Frank Button. both names matter.
Although, it only just came to me talking about it now, in terms of other names. So we've banged on a lot about MySpace, but I don't want to overlook how important and vital MSN Messenger was at this time. And
Lest we forget.
Oh yeah, and that was vital. That was where the real stuff got done. That's where, the real conversation. That was the beating heart, the engine of our world. And you could choose your own name on there. So no doubt, I think I had Matty Irie of something Rastafarian. Horrendously. Steve, do you remember your email address that you used to log in with?
Yeah. Where's this going?
Go on then.
Yeah, so I was Nipple Boy UK, right? And it sounds wrong, doesn't it? It sounds like I'm on strange sites. But the only reason is me and my next door neighbour had our tops off, right? And he said, you haven't got any nipples. And I said, you've got a sliced nipple. And then I end up on MSN, and that was my name.
UK. Now, if you put that in Google, something will come up.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know where to start with that. Christ.
Yeah, so imagine this one.
Did you go for, like, when you were looking for jobs at that age, though? Was that like part of, like, your details?
Oh, I remember you stayed on your UCAS form to apply for uni. I remember. I can't remember why I was sat with you, but I remember you were applying for uni, and your email address on your UCAS uni application form was nippleboy_UCAS.
See, that's why I didn't get into John Moore's.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it didn't occur to me to, like, that people would, like, actually look at your email. And then I remember being in the job centre as well, and, like, I was signing on, and they were like, there's jobs in Iceland there, and I weren't getting them, and I was thinking, I wonder why, but obviously applying.
Some deviants.
Got an application
from
Nickel Boy. Yeah.
It's because my neighbour said I've got no nipples.
He had sliced nipples.
Boy, what a nipple man.
I don't know why we both ended up with our tops off, but there you go. Maybe I do remember, I don't want to.
Oh, it's the UK bit as well that kills me, as if there's like an international brigade of them and you're the UK representative.
Meet up once a year.
Do you know,
How's your nipples
Well,
like?
shows them.
you know America's got everything, hasn't it? So I'm sure there's a convention. If this goes out there, I'll be invited to it. And it'll be in Vegas.
We found him, we finally found the Nipple Boy UK.
It's been someone trying to use that email address for years. And he's like, what bastard?
Think about the person who had to. Think about the person who went to do it, and they had to set up a UK one.
Email address is already in use.
Yeah.
Where is he?
Bet you he works in Iceland.
But on MSN, when it used to pop up whenever your mates came online, it'd say Frank Button, and then in brackets Nipple Boy UK has just signed in. Oh man.
Oh.
Oh my god.
No wonder people didn't
man.
talk to me, you know.
Yeah.
But we gave them no choice. We would.
Well, yeah,
It even kind of got to the point where we'd be like talking to people, waiting to introduce Frank Button. You know, I'm Matty, but it's not about me. Here's Frank Button, and like rip away, Frank.
yeah. Well, you imagine, you know, I come in as Nipple Boy. My name's Frank Button. And then I'm just shouting at people for wearing trilbies and not listening to the lies. Like, and
With a signed picture of yourself.
with a signed picture of myself. So
That's where like this like TV detective thing, because if you're introducing yourself as Frank Button, and like they have here's my card, and you'd have the autograph, but then like the way you were dressed with like your blazer on, yeah, so you're coming around to like suss something out.
And who's your mate in a misfitting suit, and the other mate with the Rastafarian stuff on? Christ almighty.
Yeah.
You're like the fucking monkey. What we did, the Air Bear Bunch or the banana splits?
Banana splits.
So that's the legend of Frank Button. Do you remember one time, years later, me mate saying, why people call him Frank Steve? So there's our Frank, and it remains for the rest of our time in the band. It was Frank, and I don't know where he is now, but you know, I'll raise a drink to Frank.
yeah, the email address as well, I think.
Still in use.
Do you know what? I think it is. I went on my Facebook the other
What
day.
was your password?
Yeah, well, God, who knows? Do you know what? It was from Nipple Boy UK, and then like Lee Mathers is God or something. You know what I mean? And yeah, I saw it was still active on my Facebook, and I was like, can people like click on it and see that I'm still Nipple Boy UK? Because it does make a lot of sense. I do get a lot of like strange friend requests. Like,
Yeah, from like fucking paedophiles or something.
Yeah. God, throw that in with the Jimmy Savile experience, but there's nothing down for you, mate. I do want to stress for new listeners, the Jimmy Savile experience was pre-knowledge. We did not know he was in us. I feel I'm going to say that every time. I didn't think I'd be talking about the Jimmy Savile experience this
Put at
much.
the start of the show.
Yeah, disclaimer, yeah. Oh. So that was us in a band. We were a gang, weren't we? We were like living in each other's pockets, really, by that point, weren't we?
I think that's the beauty of it. Like, all this is about like starting a band and all that, but I think the real meaning is like the real message that's coming out is that we started a friendship, lads. The three of us. I joined I joined your crew,
Yeah.
and it was, well, how do we best adapt to this situation? Give ourselves shite nicknames, fucking not tell anyone how to dress, just keep rifling through charity shops, and we'll figure it out. Beautiful stuff. Beautiful.
So Long Too Long is a podcast written by me, Matty Lackland-Day, also starring Liam Rowlands and Steve Buckley. For more information, search So Long Too Long podcast on all socials or email us at solongtoolongpod@gmail.com. So Long Too Long is part of the Club Shipwreck network. For more information, go to www.patreon.com/clubshipwrecked. Thanks to John Gibbons and the Anfield Rap for loan of the studio.
I like playing in the dark, man.